Hello and welcome to the Female Founder Friday podcast with me, Lindsay White. I'm passionate about helping female entrepreneurs be great leaders, build high-performing teams, and create inspiring workplace cultures through innovative talent programs and practices. Because when people feel like they belong at work, they deliver their very best and businesses thrive. The Female Founder Friday podcast is all about connecting with the most incredible female entrepreneurs to talk about their journey to creating their own business, the mistakes they've made along the way, and how they view their own leadership. And I'm challenging all of my guests this season to take my leadership style quiz. And during each episode, we'll be digging into their leadership style and how it impacts the way they lead in their life and their business. And if you're interested in learning more about your leadership style and want some of my top tips to help you lead more effectively, you can take the quiz right now. Just check out the show notes or head over to highvoltageleadership.ca and click on the button at the top of the page that says Take the Quiz. Then you can share your results, connect with my guests, and join the conversation on Instagram by following me at High Volt Leadership. My guest on this week's episode is Sadie Prestridge, the founder of Prestridge and Co. Sadie's journey to becoming a female founder has been interwoven with her own personal journey and how she's amazing at blending the two together. Managing the ebbs and flows of becoming a mom and growing a busy agency has really kept Sadie on her toes personally and professionally. It's also a great example that you can have it all. You just have to figure out the right blend for you. And Sadie and I talk a little bit more about that today, so let's get right into the episode. Welcome, Sadie, to the Female Founder Friday podcast. I am so excited to have you here this afternoon. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you. I'm so excited to chat with you.
Yeah, awesome. And we got the chance to chat a little bit. I guess it's been a couple months since we've connected. Man, time goes by so quickly. And you told me a little bit about your story, about your journey. It's such an interesting, weaving, wobbling background and history. So why don't you tell everyone that's listening about your journey to becoming a female founder?
I would love to. So I started out as a virtual assistant back in August of 18. My goal truly was to pay my mortgage and to be able to stay at home with future children. We were trying to get pregnant at the time, and it just felt like, it was the time for me to start that transition to work from home. And so I started with that. Like, that was my goal. It was a very simple, easy, attainable goal. I got booked out very, very quickly. I was fully booked out and quit my full-time job after just 3 months and was kind of doing a little bit of everything. Honestly, at that point, it was social media, graphics, Pinterest, just kind of a lot of things. But I knew that I had the skill set to be an executive assistant. That's what I did in corporate. And so in 2019, I niched into that EVA role and started to become booked out with business coaches and web designers and just different types of business coaches, brand designers, bookkeepers, that type of thing.
Yeah.
And I feel like I finally found my place, and I was making way more money than I had even thought that I could in the space, way more than my mortgage at that time. And then I got pregnant in September of 2019, and I was like, okay, well, this was the goal, but now what? I have more clients than I expected to. I had been thinking about ways that I could grow my business, either in coaching or doing something else. So I was already kind of in that mode of like, what else can I be doing? And my business coach, who was also my client at the time, was like, what do you think about a small agency? It'll get you through your maternity leave, your clients will be supported, and then you can have some space to decide when you come back, do you want to grow the agency or do you want to, go back to being a virtual assistant? Right. And so in January of 2020, we started the agency, Prestridge and Co. I hired my first assistant and trained her really well. I stepped out in May and had my daughter. And then over the summer, like, shit hit the fan in the best way. COVID happened. Clients started coming to us. People were being referred to us like crazy. And I ended up going from a team of 1 to a team of 6 by the time I came back from my maternity leave in August. And I had to decide really quickly, like, do I want to stay in this lane and continue to grow this and become a CEO of a scale, a large scale agency? At that point, we had hit 6 figures and things were just like moving really quickly. And obviously, I'm 2 years in now. I did decide to continue to grow it, and it's been the absolute, like, just best thing for me.
Okay, so first of all, what an incredible journey.
Thank you.
But I talk a lot about work-life blend
Mhm.
because I think work-life balance is total BS. I think it's a myth. And what I love about your story here is it really truly is a blend of my work, my business, and my skill set and expertise underneath all of that with my life and my lifestyle. And how even in that just now you wove that together so beautifully, Sadie. That is exactly it.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I love that. What a great example of, creating a business that really suits your lifestyle, and growing it really successfully. And the pandemic was it was terrible
Mhm.
for so many people, but it sounds like actually it was just a real boom for you and
Mhm.
your business.
Yeah, yeah, it was. And it was not without hardships and stress. And I definitely don't want people to think that I just clicked my heels and said, I want an agency and I want six figures and boom, it was done. Like it was really hard. I had to learn how to be a CEO and lead a team and be a mom. Like I'd never done any of those things before, and I had to do them all within the same year.
Yeah.
And so it was very challenging. It definitely grew me and stretched me in just amazing ways.
Yeah, I love how you blended that together. Learn how to be CEO, learn how to, really lead a business and a team effectively. Learn how to be a mom. That is the most important job we do. Let's be
Mhm.
clear.
Yeah.
Being a mom, job number one, being a CEO, job number two, right?
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
and sort of negotiating those two spaces at the same time on a full-on learning journey.
Mhm.
That's a lot to absorb.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love it. Okay, and you said, I mean, it's not always easy, lots and lots going on along the way. Maybe tell us about, where you maybe have made some mistakes or some missteps in that journey, Sadie.
Mhm. Oh, a lot of mistakes. I trial by fire for my first year. Like I learned everything. I did everything poorly. I did all like it was challenging and it was hard. And I would do it all again to get where I'm at today. But let's start with things that I did wrong. Hiring. I had no idea how to hire people. I had no idea what to look for in a person. I didn't have the systems and processes in place to train, onboard, and have success with a hire. So if you worked for me in that first couple of months, I'm so sorry. Um, it was hard. I had to learn, right? Like, and I learned because I learned on my own. I didn't have anybody
Yeah,
who knew how to grow an agency or hire people or do any of those things in the virtual space. So
yeah.
I just kept going and kept trying. And then I saw what I liked and didn't like and tweaked it until I figured out the processes. And I didn't have the systems and processes for my agency as a whole to
Right.
be able to sustain that amount of growth. Like going from, I had five clients when I went on maternity leave and I was over double that when I came back from my maternity leave. Like I didn't have the systems in place for that. I didn't have any support. Like I didn't have my own EVA. I didn't have a team leader. I didn't have an operations manager. I didn't have systems in place. I literally band-aided the beginning pieces and I trained the person that was coming in to take over those clients individually by myself, but obviously I was on leave when all those other team members came on, so I couldn't train them each one by one. And so I had to really spend my first year kind of going backwards. I took on some clients myself and I figured out my systems and processes. I figured out what was working and not working with my hiring. And we just kind of took a step back and spent a lot of time in maintenance mode while also maintaining, the clients and some of the team that we had. So we released some team, we brought on new team, and just have been building it ever since.
Yeah. I love that though. I think for so many of us, you're right. There's no playbook, there's no
Mhm.
manual. And every business looks and feel like it's a different animal,
Yeah, yeah,
right? And we don't know what we don't know
exactly.
especially when we're starting out, and you really experience some incredible growth, and throw in a mat leave in the middle of that. I mean, that's would have maybe been manageable if
Yeah.
you hadn't been, growing and caring for a tiny human, because that's like a whole nother level of complexity.
Yeah. Yeah. Who came into the world and didn't sleep for 8 months. So.
Yeah, right? Like, of course not. You sleep when you're dead, right? Like, you need sleep. But Sadie, I do hear this. It's frequent with my guests, is that it is often in the talent, the people piece that becomes a real stumbling block as they grow and scale their businesses. That is the piece that is often a real tricky point for small business CEOs. And I think it's because we get into business because we're passionate about a product or a service. You and I are service providers, but we don't get into business to be a leader. That's not the intent. And suddenly we are. And yet for many have had little to no training, and sometimes like really bad examples of what leaders do. And that makes it really difficult to know, how do I find the right person? How do I know how do I even get a job posting app? Right? Like, even navigating some of those simple tasks, they're really daunting when you are approaching. And then, when I do find someone I think is awesome, how do I get them up and running as fast as possible when I'm like the chief cook and bottle washer? Like, I am the one that has created this thing. So, you're totally not alone in that I think is really difficult as we scale up our practices.
Yeah, no, definitely not alone.
But I love that you took the time to take some steps back and just really reinvest.
Yeah, I definitely did not want to. I was like in tears having to take clients back because I had a newborn and she didn't sleep. And so now, I mean, I went out and hired a nanny for 40 hours a week who could help with the baby and help pick up the house and do some of those things so that I could invest, a little bit more of my time and not be just drowning in all things. But it was really hard. It was very hard. And it was a lot of mindset shifts and work to keep it going, because I wanted to burn it down like every other day.
Yeah. And I, first of all, let me say that I'm removed from having a newborn. My youngest is 16, but I can only appreciate how difficult that must have been to work a regular work week on very short sleep.
Yeah.
That must have been very hard, Sadie.
Yeah, lots of coffee. You know what kept me going though is something that my coach said, and I still think about it. My daughter's 2.5 now, and I still think about it to this day. And she said, I'm sacrificing now during a time when she is a baby and she doesn't remember, and she does sleep, she slept a lot during the day. So I was sacrificing then to get my time back in the future when we're thinking 2-year-old, 5-year-old, first day of kindergarten, field trips, vacations. Now she wants mama to take her to the park and I would not have been able to do those things. First of all, let's talk 9 to 5, Monday through Friday corporate world. I couldn't just stop during the day and take her to the park or whatever she wanted to do. And so I did sacrifice in that first year with her, and I did work a ton. But now I'm in this space where I work, 15, 20-hour weeks. I take Thursday, Fridays off, and obviously the weekends. And she sees me a ton, and that has made it worth it. Like, if someone had shown me that picture when I first started, that would have been the thing that anchored me. And so that advice for me in that stage of life where I was at with a newborn was life-saving. It is business saving too. I wouldn't have kept going.
Yeah. I mean, that's an incredible trade-off. I think it's important to acknowledge that's a tricky trade-off, right? And I think it's awesome that it's worked out so beautifully and that you are seeing the rewards of that. But that in itself is a difficult decision. And we make those decisions in our businesses all the time, whether it's with our newborns, or maybe we have to be a caregiver for an elderly
Mhm.
relative, or those kinds of things. We make those choices all the time, and
Mhm.
I think when we really approach it from a blending perspective, as opposed to trying to balance,
Mhm.
right? Because the balance means that something's always got to win,
Yeah.
what inevitably what it is, it's us, because we're at that tip. We're
Mhm.
the fulcrum, we're the tipping point in the balance, and we always end up losing. But when
Yeah.
we can make conscious choices to blend,
Mhm.
then we can see ourselves reflected in that. So I love it. That's a tricky decision, but I think that's fantastic. um yeah, I absolutely love that. So tell me about where you are today. Like you said, you've got a really great work-life blend now.
Mhm.
You've got some time with your 2.5-year-old. How
Mhm.
does that feel?
Oh, it's amazing. It makes me feel so accomplished and so proud that I'm in a space where I can support, like help support my family financially, but I'm also still doing the really amazing work of being a mom and raising a child and making sure she knows her ABCs and her numbers and all of those things, while also still making an impact as a woman who wants to make an impact in a
Yeah,
career. That's huge for me. I mean, that's just to be able to balance both so well is just makes me so proud.
I love that. So in all of that really difficult first couple of years, and trying to find the space between CEO and mom.
Mhm.
It's CEO in the business and it's CEO in the like, right?
Yes, yes, yes. Let's
You
be real
kind
here.
you're the chief executive in both spaces. Let's
Uh-huh.
be clear about that. What do you think is the most important lesson that you learned in all of that?
Mm. Honestly, I think you said it well with the blend and
Okay.
not necessarily like the sacrifice. I think you have to learn how to blend. You have to learn where you're gonna give and take with the family or with the business, because if not, they'll both run you down, and then you'll start to resent both. I
Yeah.
think a big thing for me that I this year I had a lot of really big family goals, whereas last year I had a lot of big business goals. And so this year, family for me was we wanted to take a work-free vacation. We took our daughter to Florida and we went to Disney and we went to the beach. Every quarter, I take a long weekend, so I take a Friday off, and just my husband and I take a trip by ourselves, and we spend time as husband and wife, because we all know when you're mom and dad, like husband and
Yeah.
wife gets pushed to the back. So
Yeah.
that was a huge goal for me too, was working on my relationship with my husband and not just my relationship with him as a father. So those were some of my big family goals. And I did invest more in my business. I hired an operations manager. Last year, I hired an executive assistant for myself. And making those sacrifices and making those choices has allowed me to have those family goals that I wanted.
I love that. So let me just acknowledge that one of the focuses in the work that I do with female entrepreneurs and CEOs is really around values.
Mhm.
And when we deeply understand and connect to our values and we really focus on bringing them to life, we make far more impactful choices for ourselves and the people around us. And I love that you talked about some of my biggest goals were around my family value. And I think when we don't know what our values are and why
Mhm.
they're important, we
Mhm.
can't make those amazing decisions and change our behaviors and ultimately have great goals in that. So I love that you're so intentional about doing that. I think that man, we just set ourselves up for more success when we can do stuff like
Mhm.
that, Sadie. That's incredible.
Yeah, yeah, more freedom too. And like you said, it is a choice. It's something we have to choose. But I think when you get clear on that choice, it just makes everything else fall into place.
Yeah. Now I love you've said a couple times that you worked really closely with a coach that was also a client. I love that.
Mhm.
What was impactful for you about working with a really great coach?
Oh, it honestly, it was the mindset support. It was just knowing that someone had my back.
Yeah.
Growing an agency and growing a business in general is very lonely, especially if you don't have a
Mm.
virtual assistant or some type of support team or a coach. Like I didn't have anybody else in my business, and I didn't have anybody else who understood what I was trying to do besides my coach. And there's just no words. I worked with her 2 years, and just having that almost hand holding, like I could box to her and be like, oh my gosh, like this person's upset and this client wants to fire their VA, like all of these
Yeah.
things, and I don't know what to do, and my baby's like crying in the background, and I haven't showered in a week, you know, like just that, and just having that calm presence of someone kind of on the outside looking in who could kind of like calm me down was just amazing. I always knew that I could go to her and she would have an answer of some kind, or she'd be like, you know what, that sucks. I'm sorry you're going through that. Like just
Yeah.
that, you know, it's just amazing.
Oh, I love that. And I ask that, of course, because I am a coach and I think coaching is so incredibly valuable. Indispensable is maybe the more appropriate word. So when I hear someone who has worked with a coach in their business or in their life, I always love to ask that, because I think, having that coach presence can be immeasurably valuable in those moments when you are feeling desperate, when you're feeling alone. Also in those moments when you're feeling stuck and you can't quite figure out the right direction. Sometimes when you're feeling a little too sure of yourself and you need someone to be like, hey, you're not all that in a bag of chips. Like, let's just check yourself before you wreck yourself, right? Like, sometimes you need a timeout. But I love that. So I always, when I hear someone who has had that coaching experience, I always want to ask that, because I think that's so amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so Sadie's had a chance to take my leadership style quiz. We're going to talk about her style in a minute and how she leverages that again in her life and her business and her agency with all the people that work for her. If you want to know what your leadership style is and you want some incredible leadership tips, you can take the quiz right now. There's a link in the show notes. You can go to highvoltageleadership.ca, little button at the top of the page that says take the quiz. Hit that button. It takes, I don't know, 2 or 3 minutes. It's very easy. It's pretty straightforward. You're going to learn something about yourself, maybe, have a little fun, and I'll send you those great leadership ideas that you can implement right away. And then you can compare with what Sadie's going to talk about here for a minute. So Sadie, what's your leadership style? What did you get?
First of all, it was a super fun quiz. Very, very easy to take. I loved it. So my style is coaching, which totally resonated with me.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a team. I'm constantly supporting and coaching a team. I like to think that I collaborate and partner not only with my clients, but also with my team. I never want someone on my team to feel like I'm their boss or that I'm above them in some way. I always like to be at the same level as them. I'm in the weeds with them. I'm like working on tasks with them. I really want them to feel empowered in their role and that they can feel comfortable coming to me and knowing that I'm not going to look down on them or talk to them in a way that like a corporate boss that all of us have had some type of experience with. So that's really important to me.
Yeah, I love that. When we take a coach-like approach to our leadership and we are, you said it, open, approachable, when we will get dirty with the people that work for us and with us, I think we build so much incredible trust. We show them incredible respect for what they do because we're not above it, right? We build safety, we build trust, we build resilience within our teams, and we learn more. We learn and grow because we're all, if we're really being a coach like leader, we're always asking questions, we're always curious, we're always discovering. And our teams are the ones that are working with our clients. They've got great intel for us, right?
Yeah. I think the biggest question that I like to ask everybody on my team is how I can better support them. How can we better support them as women and moms? Because my team is obviously all female. So I don't just do work. I'm like, how can I support you in life? How can I help you? Like I give them resources for how to hire nannies and meal prep and anything that I have that I feel like could help them, I give them, because it's important to me that they feel well-rounded and that they don't just feel like worker bees in the agency.
Yeah, because I think, first of all, let me just acknowledge that when our teams feel supported, they deliver.
Mhm.
They bring their best work when they feel like the place they work cares about them, when they feel like they belong. This is
Yes.
a word I've been using a lot, is belonging, right? We talk about being inclusive, we talk about being open, but it's really about belonging. I belong at this place of employment. Like this is a place that sees me and respects me and acknowledges the value that I bring.
Yeah.
And I think that, when we do that, we just create these teams that just deliver.
Mhm. Yeah.
Productivity goes through the roof, satisfaction goes through the roof. We retain those incredible humans in our business. They don't leave,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
I love that, Sadie. I think that's so important that you truly are serving them as they're serving your clients.
Yeah. Yeah. It's huge goal for me. I mean, I was a virtual assistant, so I know it's hard, and I know that it's not so fun pieces and parts. And I want to be able to make sure that they understand how valuable and valued they are to me and the team.
100%. I think I started my career as an admin myself and as an EA. And I've always had a great deal of respect for largely women. I mean, let's be clear, that's sort of those are the pink jobs, right?
Mhm.
And in many organizations filled by a lot of women.
Mhm.
And those are always the women that really make things work in any size. Or, when you're in the big, highly matrixed organizations, man, it is the EAs and the admins. They know everything that's going on. They know all the ins and outs. They know where everything is. And when I have my own VA, I don't know what I would do without her. She keeps things rolling and on track and pays attention to the detailed pieces that I'm not very good at. Like, that's the truth, right? So I absolutely love that. I know how valuable it is because I've been there too. It's been a few years. It's been a few years, but having those relationships with an EA, a VEA, is just so pivotal in a business. So I love that. Well, Sadie, it's been just a real pleasure having this conversation with you. I love how you approach your leadership and your business and your life.
Thank you. Yeah, I really enjoyed getting to spend some time with you.
Yeah, it's been absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much. Well, thank you so much for tuning in today. I sure hope you enjoyed listening as much as I did hosting this conversation. And if you did enjoy today's episode, would you do me a favor? Would you give the episode a 5-star review and share it with all of your friends? I would really appreciate that. I've got a goal to impact 1,000 female founders, and with your help, we can really amplify this message. Thanks again for being a part of the show, and don't forget to connect with me and all of my guests on Instagram at High Volt Leadership. We'll see you next Friday.